Check, 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 check. Hello, hello, hello. Anybody? Alright, it's audible. Just delayed on my end, but... Alrighty then. It's been since 2017 I did one of these live stream things. I hope the mic and audio is decent enough. So yeah, what do you want to talk about today? As the one and only Cody Rhodes once said, we're going to talk about a little NASCAR Thunder Rock and Roll edition. And yes, what I mean by rock and roll is not exactly what the genre means. It's a cool way to say it. You know, it's cool to say. In fact, there's a lot of stuff that is labeled rock. Like the blues, R&B, hip-hop, you name it. There's a lot of stuff called or classified as rock. There's a table that shows you every subgenre that's considered rock or part of the blues system. So of course, I want to represent every genre I can through the best of my capabilities and with the slotted roster that I have, which is 113. So I know there's a lot of artists, like right here, Kendrick Lamar, or Gucci Mane, Bruno Mars to some extent, Ricky Martin, Tate McRae. They're not rock and roll or rock, but they're a subgenre of pop music or Latin. I also wanted to include a little international flair with my artists. Whereas Freddie Mercury is rock, Jim Morrison is rock in the psychedelic terms, Casey Musgraves is country, Vince Neil is metal. And let me get this out of the way. There's some artists out here in this mod that I wanted to include strictly because I wanted to attempt an actual Cup Series paint scheme. It's obviously never going to be perfect because I am not an artist in that form. I am an artist in visual photography, so I cannot get it 100% perfect. In fact, the Shaq car right here that was driven by Jimmy Johnson in this year's Daytona 500, where he got a top 5, mind you, that's the main reason why I included him on this roster. And then from there, I decided to do Inside the NBA when it was still on TNT before I went to ESPN, and I want to do a Lakers car. Music is universal. Music is worldwide. And then somebody mentioned about Ozzy's paint scheme. Look, again, I will stress this out. It's never going to be perfect. Some of them I can do with these, and others were a lot more challenging. For Ozzy, when it was one of the first paint schemes I made back in March and April. This paint scheme, I had to find something creative. It had to be simple and minimal. So that's why there's only one paint scheme. Because, for example, Pitbull. He's got two paint schemes. And that's because when I go out of the mod universe and change the settings, here's what some people gotta understand. I'm not gonna mess with like the Bobby Labonis and the Rusty Wallaces or the Bill Elliott's or the Dale Earnhardt Jr. paint scheme just to cater to more artists getting more paint schemes. I did not want to mess that formula. In the actual base game, Steve Park only has 2 paint schemes. Bobby Labonte has about a dozen, so does Ken Schrader and Johnny Benson. They have well over 7 paint schemes. Alright, let me plug the mod back in to prove my point. There's some cars and artists I put in purposeful areas for that reason. Like Elvis. He's got 2 paint schemes because in Richard Petty's paint scheme only got 2. He has to be in the Petty driving school. And what I mean by not all of them are going to be identical to the actual paint schemes. Look at this one, for example, the Elvis car. The Elvis car is based on Dale Jr.'s 2007 Richmond car. But I put 2025 instead of 2007 because I couldn't for the life of me find the actual logos and images that was used in that very car. That was in good quality, that is. So I decided to go find something similar and try to loosely base on those paint schemes to the Cup cars in real life. That is definitely the case with the KISS car of Kevin Harvick. And in this case, it's Gene Simmons. Let me go all the way up because I have it set up where all the drivers are visible. For example, Gene Simmons. This is supposed to be loosely based on Kevin Harvick's 2004 paint scheme where he drove the KISS car. Similar to the Elvis paint scheme, I could not find the right logos, and I basically had to make these from scratch or try to make it loosely based on his counterparts. I mean, come on. There are Darlington throwbacks that are egregiously bad or don't even resemble the throwback or attempt to it. I'm looking at you, Chase Elliott's unit first paint scheme. That looked like nothing like the Kroger car. So, and on top of that, it's missing a 3. So this one, when you exit and go to, say, season mode, if you want to select Gene Simmons, this is why it says 2025 instead of 2004, because it reached a certain point to where I had to make the scheme similar, but I couldn't find the sources, decals, mind you, help, because here's the biggest thing that people need to understand. Just about all of these paint schemes I had to do from scratch, from top to bottom. There are some that I had to use templates, and I did give credit to those people that made those templates in the README file should you choose to download this mod. Now you may be wondering, why am I focusing on Travis Scott? Let's talk about how I made the decision of who gets to be in the game, who doesn't get to be in the game. It all comes down to memory, and consciousness, and relevancy, and more importantly, timing. The only reason Travis Scott is in this game is because of his involvement with WWE and that horrible John Cena Final Boss Rock storyline that completely destroyed WrestleMania 42. In fact, for those people that have been following my journey in making this mod and showing all the paint schemes from the get-go and throughout the summer, I thank you. You guys made it possible. You guys motivated me enough, and I appreciate you guys supporting the effort because I wanted to do something different. I wanted to do something fun. This is the most important word. Fun. It's supposed to be fun. It's not personal. It doesn't run that deep. I understand that I omitted so many rock artists or a lot of acts like you have Godsmack, Ghost, Mitski, Phil Collins, some Queen members, some AC/DC members, Guns N' Roses. There are so many. So I have a live chat going on and I got a notification that Michael Mertz has posted a video about this very mod. How do I do about this? Tell them that I sent you there, for those who are listening. The 7 people that are here right now, I'm gonna have to watch that video after I'm done with this live streaming thing. But the moral lesson is, there's only 113 songs. There's so many I could fit. I wanted to cater to the rock, the pop, the hip-hop, the country, the indie acts, the obscure. You want obscure? I'll show you obscure, in my opinion. I'll show you obscure right here. Amy Taylor of Amyl and the Snifflers. This is a band I first heard of at the beginning of the year, in January. She made the game. Chris Ramirez, or Crystal, from the Aces. It's as indie as you can get. I wanted to make it indie-rific too. Sure, and mind you, some of these paint schemes I'm not proud of, in the sense they don't look great, like the DJ Khaled one. As I was about to finish this mod, you know what happened? I realized that DJ Khaled had a Nesquik deal. Maybe if I do an update, I will probably put him in the Nesquik car. Try to replicate either Jeff Green or Scott Riggs' car. So it looks a little bit more presentable. Where is Jelly Roll? Jelly Roll, that's another one that, in my opinion, is not a great paint scheme. Initially with this paint scheme, I wanted to do something similar to Ted Musgrave's 2001 truck, the Mopar one, not the blue one that he won the championship in 05. This was done before he had a match with Logan Paul at SummerSlam. I forget if it was, I think it was a tag match, but he had something involved with Logan Paul. And no, Logan Paul will not be in this game and in this mod. Speaking of wrestling, Bad Bunny, the ultimate elephant in the room as far as the 10% that are just out here to nitpick for the sake of nitpicking and criticizing for no reason. Let me rephrase that. Those who would suggest a certain paint scheme for certain artists like Green Day, for example, or Lynn Staley of Alice in Chains. I'll get more on the legends in a moment. You gotta, like I mentioned, you gotta keep in mind, there's only few paint schemes that can be allotted to a certain driver. And I did not want to mess with the formula a whole lot. I know Sledge did with the NASCAR 2000 mod. I know he did. Good for him in the sense of patience and trying to mix it up a little bit. Good for him. For me, I wanted to keep it pretty authentic to where when, for whatever reason, the graphics aren't loading up, somebody will say, why am I seeing a hey, let's see. What would be a good example? Let's go to the Pontiacs. Why am I seeing a Johnny Benson paint scheme in the Bobby Labonte slot? Why am I seeing a few of those? Why am I seeing Ken Schrader in the Sterling Marlin section? I didn't want to do that. I wanted to keep it simple. There's a lot of wrestling elements in this because my wrestling and music go like bread and butter. The very first WrestleMania stems to rebellion and pop culture and rock and roll. In my opinion, Cyndi Lauper is a caterer of both rock and pop. They blend together. So, for Bad Bunny, for example, you have the Backlash car, based it out of Kurt Busch's 2003 car. Should say 97, but I went with 36 instead. And then when you play the game long enough, you'll see in the menu, after you're done a race or a session, you'll see a little backstory of why wrestling and music go hand in hand and why it's incorporated quite a bit. As proven by Chris Jericho of Fozzy fame. Sure, he has AEW, but look at that. Undisputed Championship car. I wanted to cater a little bit of those who are in metal or in rock, and Chris Jericho is very much in the metal community through Fozzy. This one, I had a different number for him because I wanted to do something different compared to the AEW cars. That at the end of the day, they're ultimately what they are, AEW cars. Do I think he'll be back in WWE? Do I think he's going to be the Masked Man after Survivor Series? No. I highly doubt Chris Jericho can move like that. I could believe the Big Show being mobile like that Masked Man. And he was at one point mobile and quick. And I'm talking about the Big Show. Go back to the 90s and early 2000s. Especially the WCW run. Okay, now let's talk about the legends. I'm going to exit here. Oh, by the way, these stats right here, if there's anything fake, it's these stats. I wanted to create a universe to itself. It's called the Billboard Cup Series. When I went with that name, I decided, I'd rather have blank stats or show like the stats from the base game. I wanted to do something different. I wanted to put these musicians in a world of cup racing. So as you see with Tupac, he only has a few starts because I also incorporated real life situations like his number of arrests and obviously his subsequent death in 1996. If you look at, for example, Elvis Presley, he's got 7 championships in this universe. You see 1977, he only has a few starts, not a lot, no top 5s and 2 top 10s. It's a reflection of the time period of what Elvis was going through. Like 70, there's some artists that I give the championships out of limb. It's not that deep. Like 1968, for example, the comeback year, 17 wins. You got, in my opinion, championship-worthy kind of a run. If you go back to the early 60s, you see there's a blank 1950. There's no 1959. This was the period when he went to the military, and that's when supposedly Jerry Lee Lewis was going to take over rock and roll. And then all that brouhaha, that is a story within itself, when Myra Gale went down and Jerry Lee Lewis didn't become big as people thought he would be. Because of all, it's a whole complete mess, and I'm not going to go into detail on that. But yeah, Elvis was big in that period, so of course it will reflect. Then there's a couple blank years in the 60s because you gotta go all the way to Paul McCartney and Mick Jagger. Gotta remember how many championships I gave Mick Jagger. Mick Jagger has 2 championships, 117 wins. He's got... And there's some gaps because based on the number of starts where, okay, they've released an album, they had a tour, or in the case of the last couple of years, his latest album, Hackney Diamonds, as indicated by the Sydney Sweeney soap, because, of course, if you've seen the video from the lead single, she's in the video. So that's a little Easter egg right there. But let's go to see his championship years. This is more or less in the late 60s. You have 1969 as the champion. And then you go to the Start Me Up era, 1980, 1981. He got a resurgence. There's Paul McCartney. He's got 4 championships, 136 wins. And here's the thing about stats. I learned when building this game, the stats eats up a lot of the drive. So originally I was supposed to have more stats, so where like some artists will have like 1 or 2 starts if they release an album or a single, or they became culturally relevant in that period and that time of year. So but because it ate so much space, I had to delete it and keep it to where if they have the year and stats, I have them in my top 50 point standings. Here's the point standings, for example. Like 1995, 50th, 2015, 44th. To clean it up, and it ultimately worked out. Because I had like Paul McCartney at well over 1,200 starts, more than Richard Petty ever made in Cup. And then his championships, you have 76, 74, 70, and 64. Namely, when the Beatles started to blow up in the United States, was it around that time period? And there's some that don't have championships because they either feel like other people would have earned it, and some of them don't. I kind of had to play around who I got in the roster. And as you can tell, this car is based out of the Pontiac Le Mans, from what I've read on the movie Licorice Speaks, which obviously I mentioned in one of my posts. There's a song from Wings that's in that movie, a prominent part of the movie, by the way. And some of the colors turned out to be a lot different than the actual ones. So, case in point, Chris Stapleton's number 40 card. One of my more favorable country artists of today. This one's a little bit more darker than what I put it out to be. And this one I had to do from scratch, had to find graphics to fit the templates and all of that. It's one of the very first few cards I made. This is obviously, of course, a reference to Justin Allgaier's Cup card in this year's Daytona 500 as well. In case you're wondering, this year's Daytona 500 is one of the key reasons why I built this mod weeks later, because with all the tools and resources that I've been able to find over time, and especially in that period, I felt like, let me toss myself into the ring and do something I had never done before, is properly make paint schemes from scratch. I am not a Harris Liu. I am not a Noah. I am not a Sam Bass. I never claimed to be. Never will be. They have that. That's their specialty. This is out of just for the sake of doing it for fun, and also because I had really noble help to do it. So I had to make some tough decisions. This one right here, the Chris Stapleton card, I decided, okay, let me add a second card. Let me make it kind of like Dale Earnhardt, but it's not really Dale Earnhardt because the bars are a little too bigger. So let's make a Sirius XM card. Why not? Dale Jr. down. All right, Legends. Let's go to the Legends section of the Thunder Plates. Here's another thing people should recognize, and I know people do. For example, like the Busch Grand Nationals. These amount of Busch Grand National Thunder plates, that's it. That's all. And there's some I had to put over there because I felt like they should be included. There's some Busch cars that will always be there in the main and the 43 card grid, as long as, even with or without the Thunder plates involved. Like, for example, Charlie XCX. He's in the Jeff Purvis car. I included Brent Michaels because I figured, why not? There's a lot of people would say old geezers. I do not want to use old geezers in many exacts because they're legends of their own kind. Bon Jovi, I put him in the Busch Grand National roster, as I'm going to refer going forward as the secondary roster. Lady Gaga, I know somebody mentioned that it would be cool if we could include like the Fame Monster, A Star Is Born, hell, even a Joker car. Other than Dolly Parton, which is Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s Bush Series cars, all of them have just one. And same thing with Billy Joel Armstrong. Some of them I didn't ultimately do because I felt like I want to do something that is memorable to me. And for me, American Idiot is the memorable Green Day album because A, Madden 05, and if you look at the back bumper, there's a Madden 05 logo. B, there's some that in that time period I just felt like, could I try to make this and make it look good or passable? A lot of them I couldn't. Even the Master of Puppets car has some flaws, but somehow I decided, you know what? Let's make it happen because I don't want to just slap in the color background but not have any flair, just the album cover being the hood. I didn't want to do that with the Metallica cars. For the Mayhem tour, I just went with it because that's what I was thinking at that time period. Do something related to Mayhem, but a different color code. Halsey. I could have done the Great Impersonator, but I felt like Badlands would have worked, and lo and behold, we're in the 10th anniversary of Badlands. You have this 10th anniversary release and all that jazz, so it worked out. Jordan Miller of the Beaches. I know the Beaches had a new album. Good album, really good album. Might make my top 5 Spotify playlists at some point, more than likely, who knows. I stuck with Blame My Ex in that time period because this was before No Hard Feelings came out, and if I researched correctly, I don't think the album cover had come out yet. So I wanted to do something with that as soon as possible. I wanted to get the secondary drivers out of the way because they just only had one paint scheme, whereas the Cup guys, the primary, only had, many of them have multiple paint schemes. Ludicrous. I wanted to do something with, similar to the Gene Simmons one or the Dolly Parton, where I showed the car I'm trying to replicate. Instead, in that period, I went with Ludiversal because I was still in that period. Did I want to make a album cover, a generic car, or the Marco Andretti paint livery from the 2020 Indianapolis 500? For those who don't know, Marco and Ludacris go way back. They're pretty close friends, and that's the very reason why I gave him the Marco Andretti paint scheme. But these album covers really don't run deep either. Like the Megan Thee Stallion one, there's no correlation to this album with the paint scheme. And the same thing with Slipknot. I just made a basic Slipknot car. Same thing with Jason Aldean. Jason Aldean was a tough one. Same with Morgan Wallen, because those are two artists that many people would easily describe as polarizing. And that's an understatement. And I'll make this very clear. There's several artists that I put in this game that I don't particularly care or like at all. But in the fairness of making this mod, I wanted to be fair and reasonable and give them a car, because whether I like it or not, they have played a big role, especially in the Hot 100 #1 charts over the last few years or decades, in the case of Rihanna. Brian Johnson. Originally, I wanted to do a exact carbon copy of his Rolex 24 livery. Problem is, there requires so many clip arts that I couldn't do, and I ran out of page, so I went with for those about to rock, we salute you. I could have gone with the Black Album, but I already had too many black cars, like the Dogfather right over here with Snoop Dogg, or Johnny Cash, or the Black Album like Metallica. I wanted to spice up, and I wanted to add a little different color code, and I decided this particular album, let's do it. For those about to rock, great song, really good song. I wanted to do kind of like with teal gold car. All right, Legends. You see 6 over here. Add these 3 on top. That's 9. That's all there is for Legends. So of course, I had to come up with a plan to where I could cater to everyone for a specific genre. And that was not easy. I tell you what. Johnny Cash, no-brainer for me when it comes to country. I could have probably put Kenny Rogers in a Brewster Baker car. I could have put many, many, many more people on there. John Denver with a West Virginia car for all I know. Elvis Presley. It's pretty self-explanatory. Rock and roll. Michael Jackson, King of Pop. Jim Morrison, The Doors. It was a no-brainer for me. One of my favorite psychedelic rock bands, especially in this one of my favorite bands of all time. He earned a spot. Dimebag Darrell. I wanted to cater to the groove, the aggression, the attitude, a beloved figure. It's the reason why I went with Dimebag as the Pantera representative over Phil Anselmo. Tupac. Big figure in hip-hop. You could name a lot of people I could have put in that hip-hop category. I could have gone with MF Doom. I could have gone with DMX, Eazy-E. So many. But with the few legend slots I have in my disposal, I couldn't do that. Then you got Freddie Mercury. That one's pretty self-explanatory. Eddie Van Halen. There's a lot of guitar gods. Or somebody that could shred in their own genre. Stevie Ray Vaughan, for example. I could have gone with Stevie Ray Vaughan. I know he's a bass player, but Cliff Burton could have been another one I could have gone with. There's so many. But I had to pick one that I feel like will cater to casuals and more people. I want more people drawn into the concept. And I felt like Eddie Van Halen was the one for me in that regard. Then grunge. A lot of people have mentioned Chris Cornell. I featured a Chris Cornell tune when he was with Audioslave. In my playlist, I have 2 Audioslave songs. This one boiled down to at the end of the day that people look at Kurt Cobain as the genesis point of how grunge started, when in reality, you also have like the aforementioned Chris Cornell. You have so many people in that field. You could have picked anybody in that spot. And then on top of that, going back to metal, Lemmy. It's a fun fact, NASCAR Thunder 2004, there was one extra legend slot. Lemmy could have been in the Bobby Womack spot. I have him in a Bobby Womack spot, but I didn't go with NASCAR Thunder 2004 because there's more nuances and complications to that, to where I wanted to keep it simple to my capabilities. There are so many. Michael, there's more. There's a lot of legends that are no longer with us. I could have gone to. I could have gone with Tina Turner, Whitney Houston. There's so many of. There's a lot. That's the B.B. King, John Lennon. There's so many of them I could have gone, and that's the hope. What you understand is I had to pick and choose. Okay, why do I have John Cena as the kid paint of this universe? Why? You may be asking. Why John Cena? On top of that, why Hans Zimmer? I'm glad somebody pointed out Hans Zimmer. I gotta give credit to somebody on Twitter that I talk to every now and then. He suggested Hans Zimmer. Why not make a Hans Zimmer car? I felt like originally the pace car driver, I wanted the pace car driver to be Jack Antonoff or Dan Nigro. But then that person brought up Hans Zimmer, which is just only by name and logo only, unfortunately, because there's no pace car template that I couldn't find or get help finding. But I felt like the pace car driver should be a composer, a director, somebody revered. And I said, I will make that change. I swapped Jack Antonoff for Hans Zimmer, which was honestly the best choice I could have done, because when you think about it, he's kind of composing the feel. He leads the waves. He's the maestro. A lot of people do consider him as the maestro of music scores. And there's so many I could have gone with, like a John Williams. For example, some would say, oh boy, what is that guy's name? Oh boy, this is where I need my brother for this one, but he's probably asleep in Europe. Who used to be with Oingo Boingo. I cannot remember the guy's name in the top of my head. As somebody in retrospective can tell me, I appreciate it, and I will know it after the fact. I probably may know it when I leave. But the fantasy cars, or in this case, the unlockables. Some of them have triple-digit numbers, like Lainey Wilson and Sactor LaRocca. That's mostly because, and here's the thing you gotta bear in mind. The reason why I don't have many of the legendary acts that are no longer with us is because when it comes to season and career mode, it doesn't start off in 2003, or 2002 in this case. It starts in 2025. Unlike NASCAR Thunder 2004, where it has a locked end period, where no matter what, it's gonna end in a specific year. Thunder 03, you don't have that problem. You can go well into the 2040s in this season career mode, and the only thing that it will affect is those secondary drivers or fantasy drivers. Their rookie years will be wiped off. So, for example, Eddie Vedder or Pearl Jam, it may say 1990 here, but when it comes to season and career mode, it's gonna say 2032. There's nothing I can do about it. And at the top of Eddie Vedder, I wanted to do this particular paint scheme, the Vedder Cup. I know, Eddie Vedder is a Cubs fan, but for some reason, he's connected with the San Diego Padres and my Seattle Mariners. Do not get me started with the ALCS. Do not. And I will not talk about that any further. There's a car in NASCAR Thunder 2003. Let me pull that up. The SD Heim car. You see? This is the Katrina Good car. I wanted to do something for this mod that replicates Katrina Good, whereas you have two different liveries and sponsorships and color variants. I didn't want to do that for Estes car. I didn't want to do that. Because one, it's a Pontiac. And Eddie Vedder cars is a Chevrolet. I'll talk more about the Louis Vuitton look and why I went with the Louis Vuitton and Olive Garden look in a second. But if you go back to Eddie Vedder, this is exactly what I did it for. I could have easily done a Chicago Cubs car. Don't get me wrong. Billy Venturini drove a Cubs car. It's easy to do. I could have easily done it. Hell, I could have used the Venturini number fonts too. But I ultimately went with the Vedder Cup because being from the state of Washington, that was a big deal. We wanted to beat the Padres in the season-long series to where we win the Vedder Cup. And you see in the back bumper, the number fonts is the actual fonts for the Padres and Mariners. And I have two key players of the Padres on that side. And then, of course, you have my MVP, should have been MVP, Cal Raleigh, and Brian Wu. With the ballpark and then a couple of Eddie Vedder stuff on there. Yes, I know I could have gone with the Cubs. I could have gone with any Pearl Jam album. I could have gone with 10. But I went with this instead because it was just in the back of my mind thinking, okay, everybody's talking about this Vedder Cup. Might as well do something to replicate the Katrina Good car, but with my own little twist. A lot of people are getting a good kick out of the St. Anger car. I mean, come on, it's Lars Ulrich. When you think of St. Anger, you think of the tin cans that Lars had. Hell, you even have that derpy look of Lars. Nobody's pointed this out. The Hug look, that infamous "he left the band" remark. And if you look at the deck lid, if you look very closely, it's the 2003 SummerSlam poster with Sable. Because St. Anger had, I think the song St. Anger was at SummerSlam, so I'd incorporate it. Same with the NASCAR NBC logo. Because it was in that time period where Fuel was all the rage. There's a few more I want to talk about. Everybody has probably seen this paint scheme by now. The Chris Martin Coldplay car. Somebody did mention, and I did reply to that person, that before the whole brouhaha happened with Astronomer, I was either going to do a tour-themed car that would have just been this exact color purple with the Music of the Spheres Tour logo on it. That probably would have been the case. I made a compromise and put it on right here on the trunk instead. But I did thought about other albums that could have been easily done, and I thought they were going to be done. But then as when I was pushing it real hard at the tail end of the summer making all these paint schemes, I felt like, for some laughs, I'll put it in there. It's a messy situation, and it is unfortunate that's all they're known for. Hell, even the Seattle Storm did this with Sue Bird and Megan Rapinoe. And yours truly was first witness of that horror deal, because if you've seen the video, when they show Megan Rapinoe's face, I was the man behind the camera on that one. There's a little Easter egg about me. Let's move on. The Kamikaze Games car. Why did I make the Kamikaze Games car? for a little Kamikaze Games lore, he has this, he has a couple albums out. That's what the gas station is for. And then there's a cover in his most recent album. I put what the hell, that Burnout game, you know, with the 5 and all that. I put that in there as an Easter egg. I included Little Caesars and the Good News logo, Tails, the Mears Gang. They're all KG lore. And of course, Tony Raines. Enough said. The Take Me Home album, you can stream it. I'm pretty sure those CDs are still for sale. I'm not 100% sure. I do need to get it at some point because why not? Why haven't I, honestly? That's why he's in the game. In fact, there's several mods out there that they include YouTubers for rhyme or reason to kind of get them to play the demo or whatever. So I felt like, and this all came, then I just mentioned that to him in a live stream. I think it was either NASCAR Rumble or the tail end of the Tony Raines saga, or it might have been Jerry Johns, the baseball, MVP baseball. The MLB The Show, excuse me. And I said, you know what, I'm going to go make it and replace J Balvin, because one of the things that I mentioned already, J Balvin's paint scheme is complicated and too complex for me to do together. It was going to be the paint scheme that Tyler Reddick drove at Bristol a few years ago. And I decided, you know what, why not? Why not? Screw it. I'll put it in there. And I did. Jerry Halliwell, Christian Horner's wife. Ginger Spice. Excuse me. Good grief. This is based out of the Red Bull Trackhouse cars that Connor Sillage and Shane Van Gisbergen drove. But unlike the diecast and NASCAR 25, they do have a little sponsorship flair. The Spice Girls. This was made, and as you can tell by the logos, they're not Trackhouse. They're Red Bull Racing from the Formula One squad. This was, except for the WeatherTech logo, that is. This was done about a month before Christian Horner was given the boot. And lo and behold, Red Bull, namely Max Verstappen, has a shot at the title. Because papaya fools. Hello, iCarly fan. Good to see you on here. Good to see you. We're talking about some of the backstories of these paint schemes. And speaking of backstories, what is this paint scheme? You may be wondering. Here's a little Heim lore for you. Louis Vuitton is kind of part of their brand, their identity, because they're heavily involved with it. And the purple was based on the Formula One look. As you can tell, here's the thing, I could not find any good high quality logos when it first came out, because I think it was like the day after it was announced that Louis Vuitton was going to be heavily involved in Formula One. I think it was like the title sponsor of the Australian Grand Prix. So I decided, okay, let me get this one out of the way. Because it was going to be a Louis Vuitton car, but in case you haven't realized, it's also have the Olive Garden colors. For the Olive Garden story, it goes back to Taylor Swift's song, Nobody, No Crime. It involves the namesake of the namesake as a fictional character, and then they name drop Olive Garden, so it made sense to me to do a Louis Vuitton Olive Garden car. Whereas Essie's other sisters, Danielle and Alana, I decided to make them out of albums, or like right here, Women Music Part 3, or as aptly known as Wimpy. This one's album based. I could have literally done all the Haim albums, everything under the sun. But I decided to just keep it to the minimal paint schemes and put him in the slots where I felt it was appropriate. And for the Alana car, it's Corey Haim's paint scheme, literally. That's the only reason why I have number 11. The thing is, originally, Freddie Mercury was not supposed to have the 73. He was supposed to have the 11. But then I thought about it more that you say, you know what? Let's do nameplay, whatever. And that's where I decided I'm going to put Freddie Mercury in the 73 instead, and put Alana in the 11 to kind of that little wordplay of Corey Haim driving the 11. And then there's the Licorice Pizza car, where if you've seen the short when I attempted to do Deja Vu, this is the paint scheme right here. Let me see what iCarly fan was saying right here. I actually imagined an iCarly NASCAR car at a Toyota with 07. I can see that. It would be NASCAR 08 though, because that's the game that is based on the 07 season. 07, you're implying 06. Unless we're talking about the trucks. then yeah, it will work either way. This is the second time I've seen this channel other than a different one. Not sure what you mean by that, but either way, welcome aboard. Dave Grohl, the Foo Fighters car. Why do I have a Seattle Kraken car involved with the Foo Fighters and Dave Grohl? All right. When the Kraken win a game, There Goes Our Hero is the song that plays every time we win with the stick salute and all that jazz. And eating the fish. Yeet. Or actually, no yeet because Jey Uso is probably turning heel. Who knows? But I wanted to do a Kraken Foo Fighters card to commemorate the song and all of that. Taylor Hawkins car. Honestly, this is one of my favorite schemes that I've done in this entire mod. Because it flowed really well. It flowed effortlessly, and I wanted to do it justice based on the tribute concert colors. And if you look at my Thunder plate for that particular paint scheme. Well, thank you. I appreciate you like my videos. Skip through. I wanted to include a photo of Dave and Taylor on it with the symbol, the logo on top of it. That's a nice little subtle tribute. Fun fact about this one. This is the only one that has a black and white portrait. I could not find a decent portrait of Dave Grohl from the in utero era of Nirvana. So I decided, you know what, I'll go with the black and white look. Now, let's talk about the 2026 update. Will I do one? TBD. I may do it, but it may not be right away. I have to do a lot of decision making because I do want to incorporate a lot of the artists that I didn't include because I either forgot, didn't think about it at that time period, or man, I wish I should have brought them. I should have included them over other artists. Luke Combs will very much stay in this game. Travis Scott, on the other hand, may not stay on the update as far as the updated roster. This one is another example where I tried to base it on an actual paint scheme, but it did not turn out the way I wanted to, but I decided to stick with it anyway to kind of give you the immersion or the idea of what I'm trying to go for here. And this is the Columbia camouflage car that Bubba Wallace drove. And this is the one Bubba Wallace drove in 2023. The question will be is whether or not I may do something related to Back in the Saddle, the one where Dale Earnhardt Jr. is in. Time will tell. This is for specific people only. Why do I have Tim Duggar in this game? Because fuck you, that's why. Not just kidding, I apologize. Why not? He's promoted at every SMI circuit, so I might as well include him. And so this is the only one where I couldn't really get accurate details because I had to find anything I could to figure out an approximate period of when his birthday and his birth year is, and it may not be accurate. I know for a fact Charlie XCX's birthday is incorrect. Then again, in NASCAR Thunder 2003, Casey Kane's is as well, because that's for the sole purpose that Casey Kane's birth date is Elton Sawyer's. It's supposed to say August 2nd. What might have happened when I was working on the database and updating it, I might have ignored one category, and the 8 appeared twice. Shout out to Cam for that. I appreciate you pointing that out. That will be updated in the coming weeks or months when hopefully there's some more big updates to where I can enhance this Billboard Cup Series universe. But yeah. This is, if you're going to tell me which paint scheme I dislike making in the sense of how aesthetically appalling it is, it's this one. If I did tiers of my paint scheme, this will be at the absolute bottom because it just looks, it looks Bush League to me. It really is. I did her disservice on that. All right. Dolly Parton, the Tyler Reddick car. I had to make those ambrosias, those feathers, by my own. I had to spam, copy, and paste it to make it look like any similarity to the Redux car. And it kind of bleeds in the mirror on the side windshield. If you look very closely, it bleeds in. Yeah, it's a little mismanagement on that end, but Tyler Reddick's car, it has the dash for cash spoiler. That's why it's red for some reason. That's the only reason why it is red. And I could not find the actual hood of that particular paint scheme. So I had to find any basic Dolly Parton photo within that time period, like 2019, and say, okay, that'll do. This is what I was trying to find. I couldn't find it. And it got to that point where, okay, just do the best I can with it. Let me see what iCarly fans real quick. Before I have 2 seasons. One, I said 07 because Carly. Okay, that makes sense because that too is true. Oh, different video. Guess somebody has been posting videos about this mod. Good to hear. I know Micro Moods literally posted it about a half hour ago that I will get to see afterwards. Okay, Brett Michaels. This was the first dabble of trying to make an actual car that was based in real life. This is supposed to be Derek Copes' 2002 paint scheme, hence for the friendlies and a lot of missing contingencies on that side. Not the actual contingencies, but the decals over there on the post. I couldn't find a good logo for the Hollyweird tour because that was what I was promoting. So I just went with something basic in that regard. Now, Dua Lipa. Why is there no Monte Carlo, no Chevy? Why does it look like a 2000 Busch Series car? Porsche. That's why. That's the only reason why. It's because of Porsche. Let me see who I want to talk more before we dive into the billboards a little bit. Alright, let's talk about Jim Morrison. 65 is based obviously when the Doors were coming into the terms, forming the band, and then before the first album came out and all that. Yeah, it's kind of unique. With the logo, I didn't want to do a base. I want to kind of like angled in a way, kind of like how some of the old cars from the 1980s had that sort of slant on their logos or their product they're promoting. That's what I went with here. As a matter of fact, we're gonna go with We're gonna go right along with Jim Morrison for some of these textures. As you've also noticed, I updated most of the logos to represent today because in this day and age, especially in music, change the look, change the image. Nobody will notice, even though they do. But yeah, I have like their current iterations, their current logos for most of them. The only ones that I really didn't change were Daytona, Indianapolis, and the tracks that were already owned by SMI to that point. And let's go say we'll say the California 500, but we're going to the Doors 500. Some of them on the loading screen don't have the actual names of what they are now. Like I know the logo says Auto Club Speedway, but this one says California Speedway. The only one that there's very few tracks I may change it to the current name. And this does unfortunately include Atlanta Motor Speedway, which is labeled as Echo Park. Alright. What I wanted to do with this game is I didn't want to have all the Thunder 03 logos. No. If I wanted to do an immersion, a true experience of rock and roll at its finest, or music in general, I wanted to do my own twist. I wanted to do custom race logos, like the Doors 500, add the Auto Club Speedway logo, add Columbia Records, Fender, TikTok. Try to make it very immersive. And that's the goal that I always have, is make this game immersive enough with some Easter eggs and tributes along the way. Like, for example, let me get the rear view mirror out of the way.
Well, I see the brakes work.
Right here, California. I, and a lot of people, for that matter, miss California Speedway or Auto Club. And I wanted to put something on there that tells you, we miss you, Fontana, because a lot of people do. And if you look underneath you see Greg Moore's helmet. I wanted to add some tributes in there, namely open wheel tributes, because at the end of the day, they should be remembered and not forgotten. You see, I got all the music streaming services, iHeartRadio, the Pink Pony Club, because West Hollywood, even though Fontana is a bit of a drive from Hollywood, I wanted to add a Chapel Roan reference here in California Speedway, the Grammys, because where's the Grammys at? LA. So look at California Speedway. And as you see, when you exit, you also get a little bio or information about myself, or in this case, Ozzy Osbourne here. Because here's the thing that people I need to explain. Those people already know this, for those who have followed enough. This roster was finalized by the end of June. I said to myself, I'm sticking with these artists. I'm not going to swap them last minute. I'm not going to mess up the formula at that point. I chose to keep Ozzy in the main roster as a tribute. I could have easily put him in the Legends category, and I probably could have eliminated somebody else, one of the other 9 Legends, in his place. But I ultimately vetoed the idea, and I knew right away that I was like, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to stick with it. And if you play on race mode in some tracks, there are some Ozzy tributes in the air banners, and I'm gonna do that right now. Let's go. I'm kind of trying to remember what particular race do I have it on. What race do I have this on? I think I have it at Rockingham. Let me double check. Oh, speaking of the Rock, this is one of the absurd texture changes that I made here. And I say absurd, and then this Mott Nugget comes up. Like here, it says North Carolina Speedway, not Rockingham Speedway. And it's called the Heim 400 because originally, Heim stems from Rockenheim. Rockingham. It felt pretty straightforward.
We're live from the North Carolina Speedway, otherwise known as the Rock side of today's NASCAR race, the Pop Secret 400, right here on MRN.
Otherwise known as the Rock.
Now, let's take a look at the starting line.
Look at the airband. Lumen, Severance.
In the front row are the Target Dodge and the Lowe Chevrolet.
Another thing that I wanted, when I get a major update to somebody that knows how to do this a lot more better than I do, is make sure they don't say the Target car or the Lowe Chevrolet.
In the race from row 3 are the 65 car and the Kodak Chevrolet.
Let me turn down the volume. But as you heard, the 65 car, so it worked by changing some of the number identifiers. It works, but many of them still say the paint scheme they're based on, as evident from there.
In row 6 we have the 16 car and the 88 car.
There's the Gucci Man, Mark Martin Kellogg's Chevrolet. More often than not, it's the fantasy. This is a secondary. It varies, but I'm happy to know. I'm happy to know that they mostly work, so that saves me a lot of time. All right, let's go racing. I don't think this is the venue where you can see the Ozzy tribute. I know there is one in Michigan. I put that one up there at Michigan International Speedway, which I'm probably going to show you next. But here's what I mean. We're at the Rock, but I also have some Heim stuff because Rockenheim. That's what they were initially. That's what the family band was called back in the 2000s. But I couldn't remiss not including The Rock, the final boss, the people's champion. I know I'm going to get wrecked any moment, but get a look at The Rock. Wow, they all avoided me. It's Rockingham. It's The Rock. I got to incorporate The Rock somehow. It's The Rock. Why wouldn't I not include The Rock? I know he's the most polarizing man in sports entertainment these days, but it's The Rock. In retrospect, what I probably should have done, and as there's another artist I might consider throwing in the wrench, probably including in 2026, is Bob Seger, Like a Rock. It's pretty straightforward. And some of these textures I cannot do anything about it, like this look of the rock. It's in back-to-back form. I couldn't. Some of them are just duplicates. No, I'm not gonna do any more laps. I'm just showing textures, crew chief. All right, that's enough of the rock. This is what I was talking about earlier, the rock and wrestling connection. Yes, indeed, it is his racetrack. It's the final boss's racetrack. Technically speaking, but... Alright. Let's go take a look at Chaperone for a second. Yes, that is indeed Wildflower in the car. If you know, you know. The same with the trunk. If you know, you know. What track did I say? Michigan. No, we're not going to go with Chaperone here. We're going to go for the most perfect man for a track like this. They're both from Michigan, if you haven't caught drift. But let's go with Kid Rock. Let's go with Kid Rock. Yeah, he's the man that defines Detroit. Eminem is the one that defines Detroit. All right, let's take a look at Michigan International Speedway. Shady Records, Ozzy Osbourne, Eminem, Sirius XM.
Michigan always produces some great racing. What do you think, Barney?
This track is wide and fast.
You see a South Park banner.
Go 3 and even 4 wide. There are several grooves to choose from.
My Entity. Oop. I see an old Pepsi logo on top of there. Oh, there it is. Look up there. Look up there. There's your Aussie tribute.
In the front row are the target Dodge.
Okay, here we go.
But what I want to show here real quick is... I did not realize there was an old Pepsi logo here. But as you see, you got Sirius XM. I mean, it makes sense that you have a Sirius satellite radio over there. But I want you to get an idea what I was trying to go here for the Michigan layout, Michigan textures. Mom Spaghetti. Discogs, Adidas, Fortnite with Eminem. All right, let me pull the page here right here 1 second. No, not the Aussie car. No, that's not what I wanted to do. I was going for the weekend car. Damn it. Eminem. Mom Spaghetti. Eminem. Shade 45. Eminem. Meyer. Detroit Lions. The biggest thing that I'm trying to show you... Hold on, before I exit out of this track. Like Rockingham with The Rock, Michigan is Eminem's empire. So much of his empire that there's 2 of his races named after him. The Eminem 400 and the Shade 45 Challenge. What the hell is the Shade 45 Challenge? Well, I'll show you the Shade 45 Challenge as I'm breaking kayfabe with this loading screen. If you haven't followed my Instagram, I encourage you to do so. Alright, now let's go with Eminem. The Detroit Lions car. The Shade 45 Challenge at Michigan. These names are ridiculous that I came up with. Like, what challenge? It's like the trucks. Well, I mean, was it the Trucks or Xfinity race at Texas that had like the O'Reilly Challenge? Hello, Doodlebug5. Good to see you here. Let's go to practice because we're talking about practice. Michigan is basically the enshrinement of Slim Shady. Just like one couple artists I'm going to show you in a second. Here's what I'm going to do. Alright, as any stand would. Going to Victory Lane. There's the other Ozzy Osbourne tribute. Yes, I know there's some old Michigan and then current Michigan logos on there. It's the textures is my main goal for these textures was to replace the billboards in the grass, not so much the race logos. So there are going to be some overlaps, of course. Some of them would not pop up for some reason. So that's also the other problem that I dealt with. Alright. Okay. Let's talk about... Let's go with a Taylor Swift car. Let's talk about a couple of these paint schemes. The red paint scheme. Yes, I could have gone with the Montoya paint scheme. But I wanted to strictly focus on Taylor's version's album covers and variants. I didn't go with the other than Reputation. I didn't go with the standard. As few people used to call it the stolen versions, but since she's got all her master recordings back, it's just the original Reputation. Well, it's the only one so far. Yes, I could have gone with the Montoya Target paint scheme, but I wanted to do Taylor's version's cars instead. Plus, this is a nice looking car. It's probably one of my favorites that I've done, just the color variants and all that. It reminds me of some of those old tobacco cars from the 80s for some reason. This car in particular, Fearless. Why does it have a Wood Brothers logo on there? That is all JC. 1424. I apologize if I got the numbers wrong. I do apologize. JC. Let's just go with JC. He wanted the Josh Berry inspired paint scheme with Taylor Swift because of the Hendersonville, Tennessee connections. Albeit it has Nashville on here, but let's take a look at her stats right now. 67 wins, 3 championships, 15 in 2023 to replicate the Eras Tour. Then you have the 1989 period, and then Red, and then a full 06 campaign. All of the earnings and the stats have $0. That was on purpose. Same with points, because this is a fictional universe. I was not going to make up like make-believe points or base that out of real-life content. That would take much longer than I would have want. Same with average start and finish. The only things that are, because I only want those to be for season and career mode for those who want to play it that far. And then you'll get the monies and all of that stuff. But 24, Sir, 2023 champion. All these stats. 33rd because it was that quiet period before Reputation came out. That little time off of social media, if I have my Taylor Swift lore correct. No. Wait, hold on. We're not going. We're going to run the 1989 Taylor's version car at the 1989 Taylor's version at the Glen. Why couldn't I have done The Life of a Showgirl or the latest album? Welcome to New York. Duh. It's pretty self-explanatory. Life of a Showgirl would have been done at Las Vegas, even though the album kind of doesn't fully represent much of the showgirl lifestyle. Let me pause for a second. Let's see. Camus AF saying, Danny of the Warning, I imagine Al Ale as the kerchief and Bao as the spotter. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed, I can see that. And good point. The Mark Martin car. There is indeed a Mark Martin car of replicating the Fogers by the one and only Gucci Man. There's Kiss because back in the New York Groove. Rest in peace, Ace Farley. The GNX because why not? You could tell it's not full size because if I did full size. These little billboards over there, these little banners over here, it is blown up, it is cropped. All right, let's go back. This is the only tobacco product that resembles RJ Reynolds in this entire mod. I'll explain why in a second. Camel, because it's part of RJ Reynolds. Camel GT, Watkins Glen. I include in Bon Jovi Radio because we're in that area, and Honora because it was during that time period where the Honora craze was happening. Best Picture. Very gut-punching of an ending of a movie if you haven't seen it. It's a good film. Good film.
Do you need a co-pilot or something? How about a navigator?
How about no? Oh. Let's go to the tunnel. Let's go to the pedestrian bridge area. And that's another reason, too, that I had to change the colors. I have to remember, because this was one of the first tracks that I modded. Texture, race names, textures, and so on. I could easily replace it, put it Taylor Swift at the Glen or Jay-Z at the Glen. But there's already a Jay-Z race in the night version. And it fit. There's a fun fact here, too. If you go drive through a major tunnel, give it a listen. Give it a listen. Here. You hear that? Now let me do it full speed as best I can. Little sound effect included. Alrighty. Let's see what else we can talk about. If time allows me, I'll go... No, we're doing it now anyway. Let's take a look at the weekend. Whereas next year's WrestleMania will not have a weekend, dude. It will be Aerosmith instead. So if we want to talk about, oh, let's add more rock artists in its principal form. Borderline chance the weekend maybe on the chopping block. I doubt it when you consider he ruled 2020, so I don't really want to get rid of Billboard Cup champions in that regard. If there's going to be some replacement, it'll be mostly through the secondary and the bonus drivers. Let's go pick the Idol car, the polarizing show, the Idol. Let's go take a look at Echo Park Speedway, or as people would call it to this day, the Atlanta Motor Speedway. Here's a little bio of Kamikaze Games as far as his music that I talked about early, as to why he's in the game. Probably could have gone with Michael Massey, if I'm honest with you, because he does those little guitar tunes for Front Stretch. I think it's him. I don't remember 100%, but he does music stuff. One of the very last things I changed as far as the billboard textures was the Columbia one, because I decided I didn't want to do a generic Columbia billboard. I wanted to include Luke Combs in this one because of the Columbia endorsements and all that. So I felt, let me toss in Luke Combs. I got Warped Tour on here because why not? Because in my opinion, it's one of the synonymous things in my home state of Washington. DTP, Disturbing the Peace, Ludacris's label, because we're indeed in Atlanta. I gotta give him a welcome to Atlanta treatment. Then you got Lady Gaga with MasterCard, Apollodor Records. All the Winston Cup wall logos on the wall, I replaced it with Billboard Hot 100, if you haven't noticed. Because I wanted to incorporate the charts in some capacity, and I felt like, why not slap in the Hot 100 instead of NASCAR Winston Cup racing? Let me see what it says, what Doodlebug says. When is the Pixar's car scheme mod with 40 cup races in the TV show and the mode character? Hold on, I gotta turn it around because I'm reading it vertically and there's a graphic blocking it. Alright, let me try this again. When is the Pixar car scheme mod with 40 main Piston Cup races in the TV show and the movie character mod and the actor mod and the sports person only mod? You're implying if those mods have either been made or am I gonna make them? I'll let other people that know better, that know how to manage those better than I do, and know how to create those cars paint schemes even better, because you do not. I can barely make these paint schemes all enough. Replicate the cars paint schemes? That is a huge. That's a massive ask, in my opinion. I'm sure somebody will do it. Somebody will. I'll leave them up to those to do it. TV show and movie characters. I'll have to think about that. And the same thing with actors and sports persons, because hell, I'll toss in WWE or AEW. It's just pro wrestling in general. You have no. Those will be fun mods for anybody that wants to dabble on it. Be my guest. I, for the life of me, could not do those, because between my multiple jobs that I have, including camera work in Seattle, on top of the fact that I got business stuff to take care of back home, namely photography, this is the reason why it took me a lot longer than I would have liked to have this mod come out. It was supposed to come out in early September, but it came out in late November because I just simply didn't have the time. And yeah, more than likely, most of them won't be done, but I do really appreciate the question, because for me, music was more of my avenue. I wanted to do it because I was going to do a NASCAR Racing League 2003 fictional story mode, similar to what Griffdog did with the showdown, where Hailie Deegan won that race in North Wilkesboro. Speaking of North Wilkesboro, if and when Olivia Rodrigo's new album comes out, which is supposed to come out next year, supposedly, then I'll make an updated look of Olivia Rodrigo. I just went with this at the spur of the moment because the Lollapalooza show, lives were changed in that one, I'll tell you what. Oh, and the High School Musical car, if I were to update, I would eliminate the Bud logo, because in real life, that car and Billie Eilish's Don't Smile on Me car would not have the Bud logo at all. Winston Cup, I don't think either. But I didn't really think about it that much, because I just didn't really want to mess with the contingencies except for a few other drivers. And Billie Eilish is one of the few artists that have different number fonts per paint scheme as well, because I wanted to keep it consistent, if you ask me. All right, compared to the James Hetfield card, where I just used the same number font all throughout, but the logos have changed. Oh, by the way, the Daytona 500 logo on the 72 card is just solely because of the song was used in the Daytona 500 adverts from Fox. Let's go drive the reload car. Let's take a lap at Bristol, because there is a little thing I want to show you about Bristol that happens in the base game as well that I didn't realize until after the fact. There's a little section of the wall going into turn 4. And I think it's also going into the straightaways, to be exact. To where look at the Hot 100 colors is like bright green, teal. Okay, it's not in this section, so it's at the entrance of turn number 4. Oh no, at the end of turn 2 entrance, but we're coming up to it. If you look closely, there's a little slob of green.
Well, I see the brakes work.
In the base game, it would be a slob of red. That's something I could not change. And then I realized that's just in general. Then I felt a little bit better about it. Another thing I could not change is these logos over here, like where it says NASCAR, Food City, the SMI logo, Chevy. I could not find a way to change those, unfortunately. I tried multiple times to texture dump it, and I cannot find a way to fix it. Here's another look at some of the billboards. Got PG Lang, Traveler Whiskey, Savage and Fentanyl, Win in My Hands, Quick Trip, the Sydney Sweeney Soap, Capital One, Coca-Cola. I wanted to make it as corporate capitalism as corporate capitalism as I can, because that's what music is sometimes, especially when you have product placements and endorsements left and right. So that's why I changed the billboards and all that. Michael Jackson. I appreciate What If pointing them enjoying these games because it's not in the back of my mind. 7 championships, 92 wins. Especially a lot of them coming throughout the 80s because Michael Jackson pretty much ruled. And unlike the Grammys, Michael Jackson does get flowers for his off-the-wall efforts here in his universe. But I put him in the BP slot with the number font changing, or in this case, it'd be the logos changing on purpose. That was purposely by design because I felt like, why not give it a different look? Because it's like people associate Michael Jackson with Thriller, but there's also Bad, which is just as good as an album. It's one of the best albums of all time. NASCAR Thunder YouTube edition. Where would I put myself in NASCAR Thunder YouTube edition if there was ever such a... I don't think anybody would ever put me on NASCAR Thunder YouTube edition. I'd probably be the Tim Duggar of the series. Of that particular mod. Where was I? Okay. Fred Durst. Casey Kane Friday. It's self-explanatory. I don't have to explain you much. This was the first full-on multiple paint scheme series that I did. And this is before I realized that, oh, you can lower it a few layers so where it's not super bright and it blends in well. Like with Billie Eilish's, it blends with the car. Fred Durst does not blend in too much because this was literally the first thing I did. This was actually the first paint scheme, the second ever paint scheme I ever made in this mod. The WrestleMania 17 look. I know it has Casey Kane and Hendrick cars and all of that. They're not supposed to be 100% accurate depictions of the actual year. Because there's some Easter eggs I tossed in, like the Pink Pony Club car had Wildflower in there. So, of course, it's not 100% accurate. And then, obviously, 2025 Budweiser Chevrolet because of Casey Kane. And he used to drive the Bud car. Casey Kane, I do mean. I also added a Sam Rivers tribute towards the end of the development of the mod as a tribute. Man, that passing did suck. Ace Moneymaker. Yeah, it's been a few years. It's been, what, since I haven't done a live stream since 2017, and I decided to just do one right now. This is a leisure, sit back and relax stream, kind of telling stories about this mod and the paint schemes. I know I had to go watch that Micro Roots video. Yes, indeed, it would feel wrong if I didn't include a WrestleMania X7 paint scheme. It totally would be. No question about it. No question. But yeah, it's been a while. And the story, but speaking of, it's been a while. Kurt Cobain. The 32 is resembling the Seattle Kraken. Here's a little bit more Kraken stories for you. When we score a goal, Lithium plays. I know Lithium is on the Nevermind album. I didn't choose Nevermind for obvious reasons. I cannot make a paint scheme of that one at all. So, and since I wanted to do an album, I wanted to do Bleach as the Kurt Cobain car instead of In Utero. I gave but as you saw earlier, I forget if not, this is the first time I'm showing you. I gave the In Utero car to Dave Grohl. So 2 out of the 3 Nirvana albums are represented. I cannot do Nevermind. I couldn't show Nevermind. It would, if I did. Whew. Dr. Dre, Megan Thee Stallion, and Joel Duplantier are enough of pushing the limits as far as paint schemes, in my opinion. But the third, yeah, Lithium plays, so I decided to go give him the number 32 in the style of the Kraken font. And slap in some Sub Pop logos around it to kind of make it not bare bones, you know what I mean? Yes, indeed, it was the NASCAR Heat 2 stream where I did Morgan Shepherd season mode, where my dum-dum forgot that I had to win the race, and I gave up spots thinking I was collecting stage points, not realizing that you don't collect stage points in the Championship 4 race if you're in the title race. Speaking of number 89, Flavor Flav. Why did I do a willpower car for Flavor Flav? If you haven't watched IndyCar the last couple of years, he's a big fan of willpower. So when I decided I'm going to do a Flavor Flav car, I could have done Flavor of Love. I could have said the same thing for Rock of Love for Brett Michaels, but I went with the Derek Cope car for him instead. That's why the 12 is there, to represent willpower. Only for it to be obsolete because willpower is going to Andretti Global, even though he was the best Penske driver last year. This past season, excuse me. But yeah, wanted to make, boy gets his boy in his car, boy. Let's run Flav. Oh, Joe Elliott. This is based on Kyle Busch's Delphi paint scheme. There are a lot of paint schemes. They have a lot of incredible album covers that I could not personally replicate and do it justice. So I went with a basic Def Leppard card instead because, like I said with Master of Puppets, let's take a look at it right now. You know how tough it was to make that Master of Puppets car? I had to figure out a way to make it look stand out with the crosses and the grassy fields and just match it enough to where, okay, it looks presentable. It's not perfect. The back bumper is literally the grass. And there's a cut over there, but some paint schemes have little weird, awkward cuts like that, even in real life. But yeah, I could have done more with Joe Elliott of Def Leppard. I could have, but I just couldn't do it the way I want to do it. Let's see. This is off our first record. Most people don't own it. I wish I could remember what that's supposed to be a reference of, and I do apologize for that. But it sounds like a clever one. Oh, if I'm thinking what I'm thinking, if it's related to Nirvana, then okay, yes, that would make sense. I'm trying to. There we go. I'm trying to read all the chats, but some of them are not popping up, so I'm just catching up a little bit. Dirty Cooch. Yes, indeed. I thank you. I'm glad you came from Michael's video that I will see afterwards because I just kind of need to get a little scope. I mean, why not? Why not? Let's see what kind of nicknames he gave all these artists, if any, and how many Easter eggs were found. Because there are a lot of Easter eggs on some of these cars. Like Lana Del Rey, Mark Martin, because the 55 font fits the Lana Del Rey aesthetic. You have Diet Mountain Dew, which is a song from hers. A&W, it's a song of hers. Norman Rockwell Museum, there's an album called Norman Rockwell, not literally in that form. Starline, which there's a lot of Easter eggs on some of these cars. Lana Del Rey is no exception. The Fred Durst case car, yes indeed. Thank you, the Braden Bunch 58. Dr. Dre. He was a tough one to pick what pace because I wanted to, so I ultimately went with 2001. And there's the Gojira car. Paris Games. That one was a lot easier than I thought it was gonna be. You have the head, you have where they play, the Paris 2024 logos and all that stuff. Good stuff. Somebody mentioned Ghost in the main video where I could have incorporated Ghost. I did not thought about Ghost. Like I mentioned, there's a lot of artists I didn't thought of that I was like, darn, I should have incorporated them somehow over others. Dave Gahan, Little 15. That's why the 15 is in that car, because of the song. Albeit, that's from the previous album. It's not on Violator, but I wanted to do a Violator car for this particular one. Let's see who else I haven't talked about. And here's another Easter egg of the Lord car. Tomorrow is Wednesday. No. Yes, tomorrow is Wednesday. Good grief, how is it Wednesday already? Tomorrow. I hope I feel good on the Wednesday. If there's one paint scheme that I know honed it in. This is the MG. This is the reason. This is the one right here. I'm still angry about the 2024 class. This is supposed to be based on the car that was on display in the 2024 class. The only difference that I did with it is add a Sophie Lloyd logo. That's why this car looks like the way it is, because it's based on the actual show car that they had in LA. This is self-explanatory. This is Jimmy Johnson's Creed car from the Daytona 500 in 2024. As a matter of fact, his fellow bandmate Mark Tremonti also has the petty font number 48 with the Alter Bridge look with the Judgment Day logo on there, albeit the Judgment Day was not a thing when this album came out. I honestly like how the back end turned out. I think it flowed beautifully, in my opinion. It looked pretty good. It's one of my more prouder paint schemes that I did. The only reason why I added Alex Warren is for the sole reason his song Ordinary was #1 for God knows how long, and I slapped in TikTok because I found out he was originally famous through TikTok. And then I slapped in Billboard on there for good measure. The paint scheme turned out nice. That was my... Now I remember, this was my J Balvin replacement, not Kamikaze Games. This was my J Balvin replacement. I think I replaced Kamikaze Games. Coulter Wall was the one I replaced for Kamikaze Games, and that's why Luke Bryan ended up with the 49 that was supposed to originally be Coulter Wall's, and that's why in the main video where I show all his drivers and paint schemes, it shows the 74 because I originally had him in the 74. But with this switch, it allowed me to incorporate this color of the number font a lot better, and lo and behold, this was the final product. Thank you, Starline Reynolds. I was forgetting the name of that. Yeah. MGK's showcase car feels it does make it look unfit. And this one, it was when I originally wanted to do, like, certain artists will get all contingencies, some contingencies, or hardly any contingencies. And then I realized over time, this is pointless, this is ridiculous, this is too tedious. And this kind of shows you this was one of the first cars I did make as well, as a result. But then again, Jordan Miller's, on the other hand, is also empty. But I feel like I don't know if that's more or less to do because of the color being different to where it looks like it. But yes, it does feel empty. There are World Cup cars that feel empty like that, unfortunately. But who's to say I don't add them later on? Where are you? Vince Neil. Somebody pointed out what was it, Wheeler Walker Jr., or whatever his name is. I'm not in tune with the modern day bro country genre, or the parodies or the comedies other than the big ones. But Vince Neil did drove the number 69 car in Indy Lights. This is what is supposed to loosely be based off his Indy Lights livery from 1992. Because as he's in the Greg Biffle slot, you'll rarely, hardly ever see the Dr. Feelgood car. This is one of the challenges I had where I realized, okay, I can't just slap in certain things and say, yep, that'll do. I had to learn. And yes, you are right. That font does look familiar. I'll show you a particular paint scheme, and let's see if that answers your question. When I chose the Chick Hicks number font for Gaga, I felt like that fits the aesthetic a little bit more than some of the other 86 number fonts, in my opinion. And how could I not make a Lightning McQueen? Speaking of cars, you were talking about Cars mode mod from the Pixar movie Cars. Here's a little crumb. The Sheryl Crow car. Because obviously Sheryl Crow has the song that plays at the beginning of the movie. And I said, let me make it a Lightning McQueen car. Make it a little unique. To say, okay, at least there's a Lightning McQueen car. I'll pick the Lightning McQueen car. Speaking of picking the Lightning McQueen car. Let's go to the Rolex Roar Grand Prix at Daytona. As you see, there's multiple bands that are represented through different groups or vice versa. Let's take a look around. I mentioned that Camel's the only RJ Reynolds brand that I represent in a tobacco billboard setting. I changed the Winston to Rolex, Big Hit Music, to cater some of the K-pop fans out there. While I make a K-pop Demon Hunters card, that is yet to be seen because I need to figure out a specific name to go with it. There's a reason why I'll get this out of the way. There's a reason why I can't do a sleep token car because there's the identities and all that is uncertain. I want to have all identities I can as possible that is accessible. And the only reason why I added the Marlboro logo on there because when I think of road courses of the 90s or early 2000s, I think of that for some inexplicable reason. And I've never smoked ever in my life, nor intend to. But it's just adds some aura, as people like to call it. This is the only track as well where I have ridiculous billboards that isn't associated with music of any kind, like Al's Toy Barn, Remember You Are One, The Substance, Lumen, Severance, The Video I Need to See Afterwards. That MCP pants, little Aqua Teen reference, SpongeBob right here. And replacing the Winston Cup logo is the most obvious thing you could have put on there.
The car's not going to drive itself, man. Let's go.
Oh, you remember why is Clint Boyer's photo over here? Go type in Clint Boyer is God. You will not be disappointed. And finding that photo was hard enough in good quality. And if you're wondering, some of these textures are going to look blurry because like this track and Fontana, they're all stacked into one layer for some reason, so I cannot upscale it. Because if I upscale it or make it too big, it's going to some of the textures are going to overlap and it's going to clash. It's just going to be too tedious and tacky. So that's why some billboards are blurry and low res compared to others that are super high res, like I'm going to show you right now at Charlotte. I honestly don't know who would be the 40 piston covers. I know there's a lot of universe modes and wikis out there. I could not. You obviously have the main characters over the years, of course. You'll definitely have the Apple car. What you're looking at right now is the very first paint scheme I made for this very mod, the John Cena Experience car. I was originally going to do a current gen model that is based on the 2024 mod and templates, but I went against it because the Chev, identifying which manufacturer is supposed to represent which or how it's going to be replaced got too ridiculously complicated, and I decided, I'll just stick with the 2000 templates.
What's going on? You okay?
And that is why there's no Dodge cars in the game. That's the reason. There's no Dodge template for it. I have not found one, unless I want to do Thunder 04. As you look at some of these billboards, these are all in high res because those are separate textures. And that's something when you want to replace texture, you got to keep in mind. You got to cater to the ones that are appropriate and fed in. Like Daytona, like the Daytona Road Course.
Is the car okay?
That Daytona Road Course, yes, the car is okay. The Daytona Road Course, they're all combined. Tiburon has that same problem. Charlotte, on the other hand, doesn't have that problem. So I can do like a one battle after another, or a Tony Bryan and Shurkane's billboard, or Beyonce, or a Waffle House, Chaperone, Rolling Stone, Curb, you name it. I wanted to build a unique universe for that reason. I kept Lowe's on there because if I put Charlotte, it's gonna look terrible or too squished or trimmed out. So they're never gonna be perfect, but I wanted to make it musically authentic as I can. That's why you have like Apple, some actual real life NASCAR sponsors like Bank of America for the Charlotte race. I swapped, instead of Los Motor Speedway, it says Charlotte Motor Speedway. And some of these logos, like it says the Curb 500, I want to make it 70s because that's the logo that I felt like. There, I made a lap. Oh. Slim Jim, I have iHeartRadio, I have Tabasco because Tabasco Fiasco There's like that one interview with Darrell Waltrip in the Tabasco colors in the fall race when there was like a water leakage on the track that they had to red flag the event. Slim Jim, because Slap It to It, Slim Jim, Macho Man Randy Savage, he had an album. Hell, I could have made a Macho Man Randy Savage car if I wanted to, or a Hulk Hogan car. Hulk Hogan would probably be easy to do because there were actual Hulk Hogan cars. Hell, the Ricky Stenhouse car, too, for that matter. Now, why did I put John Cena as this long, mysterious driver? Let's go to create a car. He's in the kit paint slot. I felt like you can't see him. Kit paint, you can't see anything other than just a blue tin can. I felt like he was the perfect choice to put. And I know the logos are outdated because it has before he won his 17th title, and it has the actual current cup logo and all of that. But I wanted to do something basic and simple because, and ultimately, like, look at his name ID, his name, Titantron name when he was all black. Number 54, he had jerseys with the number 54. Oh man, you know it's coming. You know it's coming. It's number 5 in the Billboard Hot 100 charts. You know it is coming. Once it hits number 1, the year is over. Could be by next Monday. Maybe Wham could stop him. Hell, Brenda Lee has done it before. Could happen. You never know. Benson Boone. As polarizing as he is, I wanted to add a super recent local figure into this game. He does backflips. That's why he's in the Carl Edwards paint scheme. And the O2 resembles the year 2002. The number 67 car, and I do mean the number 67 car. Not the meme, not the South Parks, not the Juggos, none of that. Number 67. I even contemplated putting the text underneath the font says 60 and 7. Because that's what it is. Number 67. Taylor Monson. That's another one I could have done. A pretty reckless car. It fit in the vibe, in my opinion. I'll keep that in mind. Thank God you say. One can hope. One can really hope, in my opinion. Who knows? This is the infamous Slayer car that Rick Ware Racing pussy out and left to not run because it goes against their standards and values. Oh boy. Why is he in the 67 rather than the 66? You may be asking. I already have somebody in the 66. It's missing another 6. I could have added like a little tiny 6, but it would get ridiculous. And I had a coworker tell me that, why couldn't I add another 6 in there? I don't think the game or the audio files will acknowledge the number, because I don't think it goes that high. I think it goes up from 00 to 199, maybe 200. I don't know. But I don't think it could go up to 666. A lot of people love the Dimebag Darrow car, the Far Beyond driven car. I'm glad to hear that too. I really glad that people really love the Pantera car, because I said, what scheme do I want to make where I wanted to challenge myself doing it, but also fit the vibe that is not like have a different color. And then this one is darker blue. I could have done Cowboys from Hell or Cowboys. I could have done that, or I could have done the albums after that, or his band before the untimely tragedy that went down to him. There's so many, but I went with this because I wanted to add a different color variance, because I didn't want to have like 75% of the roster have black or white cars, or just basic paint schemes. I just wanted to add different variations of color. You may be wondering, why is there an EA Sports logo? Why is there like a 2003, 2004 bundle? If you place a couple of the EA Sports games from the year 2003, like Thunder 04, Madden 04, NHL 04, one particular song from this particular album from 2003 played a lot. I call it the EA Sports National Anthem of 2003 because it was you couldn't escape it. I really do. I mean, it's an addicting opener, if you ask me. And and that's why. And he's in the '07 to kind of represent the seven somehow. I know it's '07. That's literally the kid-friendly Clint Boyer number font from NASCAR '08 and '09. Because I already have a 7 car on the main roster. That's Ariana Grande. When a 2026 update potentially comes out, I may dabble on a Wicked for Good, which would be just a blue instead of a pink, which will eliminate Thank You Next out there, and that's the reason why she has the 7, because she has that song 7 Rings. That less be said about that song, the better. And then you have Jungkook of BTS, his solo album, the BTS cars. I added Billboard purposefully because if there's one thing that I always remember every time when I looked at the Billboard social media posts when BTS were starting to get bigger and bigger, Billboard would hype them up like no other end. They hyped them up so much. I get it. K-pop is not my cup of tea. I still yet to see K-pop Demon Hunters, mind you. But Butter is one of my favorite songs from them. It's a good thing it hit #1 because there's some genres that I'll listen to at leisure or it needs to take certain circumstances to listen to. But I wanted to incorporate BTS somewhere. All right, Kevin talked about Folgers. This is the only artist that has like parody real life sponsors rather than the actual ones we're trying to represent here. I wanted them not include Folgers, Kellogg's, or Viagra because I felt like just slap his name in there. Mark Martin. Everybody knows this is Mark Martin. It's right in the trunk and on the deck lid. It's there. It's pretty straightforward. And this one was annoying. I had to make this by hand. I had to do this by hand and try to make it act as clean as possible for this Kellogg's car. I even used the Kellogg's text font for it. And I had to find some clip art of Gucci Mane's to replace Tony the Tiger. This one, if I had to go back, I would have made that #6 font much smaller. But this one has the Mark Martin sponsorships, just not Folgers. It just says Gucci Man in the text font of Folgers. Let's see. City of Evil also had a lot of songs that got used by EA games. Madden 06, Need for Speed Most Wanted, Burnout Revenge. Also, no Blackpink stuff since we're talking. Here's just saying I'm not 100% familiar with their work enough to make one, and I hope you because if I did, maybe I will someday sit down and listen to it to where okay, let me see who's in the lineup, and then decide okay I'm gonna base this paint scheme on this specific artist or for Blackpink. Never out of the question. Never out of the question. That's for sure. I have to somehow incorporate a female K-pop group somehow. Ricky Martin. You may be asking, why do I have Ricky Martin? Why is Ricky Martin in this game? Why is he in the 71? Why is he in Roger Caruth's number font? Well, here's why. I wanted to include a little Latin flair into this. And I said, you know what? I'm just going to go make the car and see if anybody will notice. Somebody did notice the number font, which is great. But also I wanted to make a World Cup car. Because he had the Cup of Life and all that stuff. I apologize if I keep flickering the mic, but it's been a while since I've used my headset mic for this. But it's cool to have this on here because France 98 was the first World Cup I saw that I was alive, no less. And I wanted to do a fun car. I was like, all right, if I'm going to do a Ricky Martin car, I'm going to do a World Cup car with it. If you're wondering why do I have a Burger King logo on there, I swear, when I was about 4 or 5 years old, Shake Your Bum Bum was used in a Burger King ad. I could be wrong. Could be McDonald's where I know. Could be Carl's Jr. But for whatever reason, I think of when I think of Bomb Bomb, I think of Burger King. There's an artist called El General, one of the OG reggaeton guys. It's probably a different genre. One of his most popular songs was used in a Burger King commercial, but not this logo, not that Burger King logo. The current one we have that used to be the old one. I could have swear it was there. And the EA Sports logo of the 1999 self-titled album was there to incorporate the 98 World Cup because of the Cup of Life and also EA making World Cup games. If you're going to tell me which was my least favorite my least favorite number font of the whole game, it's definitely the NHL All-Star Game number font that I used for Tate McRae. Here's why. The number font itself is not good. Come on, it doesn't compete with this number 8. It doesn't. It doesn't. On top of that, the jerseys, the color variants for that All-Star Game is atrocious. It's a mixed bag. But I decided, I'm going to just find a template, see if I can mix all these colors, and make a paint scheme out of it. And I got, the 1998 Sterling Marlin template, and I just went crazy with it. There's the NHL All-Star look. I have, NHL on ESPN, Honda, Sportsnet to represent the networks, NHL logo, Team McKinnon out of the Colorado Avalanche. That's the team that Tate McRae represented, so of course I made that one on. I could have done a F1 the movie card to represent Just Keep Watching, but I decided, you know what, stick with the album that came out, which is So Close to What. So I stuck with that instead. Who else? Oh, Lightning Challenge. Let's talk about the light. Oh, Tupac. Going back to Tupac. He's the only driver with the number font forward, not centered. And also has letterings on there too, by the way, excluding Hans Zimmer, because Hans Zimmer doesn't really have a number. He's just a pace car driver.
Dale Earnhardt Jr. on the bottom, digging hard. Labonte sideways.
The reason why I replaced the FMV's images for this, because I said this might be one last touch I wanted to doubt, because I didn't thought about it. I was like, they're images, let me fix it. And I did. And I chose different images that is either based in the time period of the paint scheme, like for this one.
Bobby Hamilton goes high on the racetrack.
I went with the NHL All-Star Game look because that's what it's supposed to be represented in the challenge. And then for the reason why I included Shaq once again is because he sponsored a Jimmy Johnson car.
Jimmy Johnson looking to his outside of the right elbow, and Johnson powerfully.
That's why. And by the way, this photo of Pitbull that I'm clicking right here.
Steve Park that time took it very low at the exit of turn number 2, and Bobby Labonte is there. Dives to the inside, trying to put a wheel low on Steve Park. The battle for the lead in.
It's my photo. I took this photo at Daytona. This one of Pitbull. I'm proud of that photo. And let's see what else. What could I talk about? If you know about this photo of Morgan Wallen with Mikey Madison, you'll know. Speaking of if you know, you know, let's talk about that car. Enough said. I won't mention it. Not the number, what the pace scheme is based off, because I have a feeling that particular pace scheme, he'd probably buy into that idea in motion. Let's talk about Van Halen instead. 84, obviously based on the album 1984. I was gonna originally do a 1984 car, but I felt like, I personally love the self-titled debut album a lot more. don't get me wrong, I love 1984 as well, but I wanted to do the debut album. I went out of my own way to go on eBay, find a vinyl record of the original pressing of the debut album because I wanted to hear it how it was supposed to sound like, what it's meant to sound like in 1978. Plus, you got Eddie Van Halen on the side. I carefully tried to find the logos that was appropriate in the time period, especially the WB logo. It's a fun paint scheme. That was a fun one to make. A lot of people also love the Linkin Park paint schemes. This one was tacky to make because one of the things I do is make sure to, all right, let me find like a high quality backdrop of the album cover and slap it in there and see how it looks. They're not they're not going to be perfect. It's going to overlap and all that, but I wanted to do it justice. And if you look on the trunk, it's hard to tell because unlike NASCAR Thunder 2002, you can't fully rotate it so you can see everything from top to bottom. There's a Chester tribute over there. I feel like it was enough to do it. It was enough of a good Chester to do a tribute from. Meteor was the album I first heard of Linkin Park when Numb came out, and Breaking the Habit, Buried the Habit. I do apologize. I know this is unscripted and all that stuff. There's a lot of great songs from that one, and I thought about this, and I know in the README file I will have to update. I know I said if there was a way to change the 31st Lightning Challenge, if there was a way to change it to where I could, instead of being just Elvis and instead of being Elvis, it could be like Taylor Swift versus Beyonce, where it's like Taylor's friends competing with Beyonce's friends. I said in the README file. I said in the README file that I wanted to include Chris Martin. Not realizing until after the fact that why would I want to put Chris Martin in Team Beyonce where I could have just put Chester in there because Jay-Z and Linkin Park had that collaborative album. So when I do make this update, somewhere down the line I will. And there's a way to change the opponents of this 31st challenge to where it feels more coherent and makes sense rather than just like, oh, what's Fred Durst doing here? What's Chris Jericho doing here? What's Olivia Rodrigo and Drake doing? What do they all have to correlate with one another? I want to do something where it's Taylor Swift's pals and Beyonce's pals, where I think I said Taylor Swift would have Alana Haim and Ed Sheeran. For Beyonce, you'll obviously have Jay-Z, and then you'll have Mike Shinoda as an homage to the Jay-Z Linkin Park album that they did. The What the Hell Am I Waiting For? You know, that tune. Numb Encore. As I'm trying to get by Sabrina Carpenter with the Elvis car. Instead of the EA Sports 500, as you see in the walls, it says the Spotify 500 because it's argued Spotify is like the big conglomerate in music, like EA Sports was the big conglomerate in sports games at one point. I felt like, why not make the place the Spotify 500 at Talladega with the current Pepsi logos? There is one logo, there is one texture billboard I could not change, and I'll show you in 1 second as I'm trying to door rub Olivia Rodrigo. There's the Lemonade logo. I added a lot of Easter eggs. If you know about the Lemonade logo on the Talladega infield grass. And that's why Morgan Wallen's car number is number 68. And to kind of play along, I wouldn't even say play along, just kind of to hint the obvious of what I'm going with that particular car and artists. We're done talking about that. Ooh. The one thing I have not tried is go to the apron if it will eliminate me or not, and I'm probably. Let me do that. Let me see what will happen if I go to the apron. I'm pretty sure it means you left the racing surface. Wow. They were very, very, very courteous on me going to the apron. Very, courteous. Whew, very generous on that one. Good grief. Well, yes, it is in its initial form, and that yeah, exactly. No, that's for sure. It's purposeful, and it kind of gives you a hint. Okay, if you weren't aware already, this is who is supposed to be. This is who is supposed to be who in this mod. It's a fun Easter egg like Taylor Swift, Bobby Labonte, Chris Stapleton, Dylan Hart Jr., Mike Shinoda, Rusty Wallace, Ed Sheeran, Elliot Sadler, Olivia Rodrigo, Terry Labonte, Sabrina Carpenter. Let's go to Sabrina in 1 second. The Exalta car, obviously, wordplay of William Byron. It's not exactly the paint scheme that Byron had at Daytona because the flames are separated, and I too had to try to glue up these pieces together to make the Assaulter car look similar enough to where it's a William Byron car, but not 100% exactly William Byron. Okay, these mod nuggets are not consistent. They're not variable. I know there's only like 7 of them. I think I've seen this one like 5 times already in this stream. That we're 2 hours in right now. All right, we're almost done here to kind of show you a little in-depth look of this mod in this live stream, but let's talk about the Pepsi font. With Mr. Pepsi himself, Jeff Gordon. Well, okay, this is Sabrina Carpenter. It would be Miss Pepsi would be, at this point, might be Danny Villarreal with the warning or Megan Thee Stallion, but we all know the Queen of Pepsi is Britney Spears. For the life of me, I cannot figure out to add the new Pepsi logo. I made it exactly the same size, the same length, but I could never, ever, ever get it right because it will leave a massive smear on the edges, and I did not want to have a smear on the edges. Whereas in the night race at Kansas, I did not have that problem with the Target logo. This is also kind of like a semi-quasi-home for Taylor Swift as well, because if you go in race mode, and if you look some of the logos, they're incorporated with the Kansas City Chiefs. Let's go click the Dunkin' Donuts car. Let's show you the Target car at night for a second. For those who are still in, I appreciate you. I wanted to talk about this in greater detail, but also do it in a live stream form because I really felt like if I do it in long form, I will never be done. It will be too tedious when I have a lot of gigs coming up to where I'd rather do it in a live form rather than in kind of a recorded format. Like right here, this Target logo. I had no problem putting this Target logo. I think it boils down to textures and all of that. Well, yeah, I want something to lunch. How about some Cheetos? Originally, just before this mod came out, and I think I did this. I updated this before I released the mod, where I had the first Wicked movie out, but I wanted. This race is called the Wicked 400. With Wicked for Good out, I wanted to say, let me add the Wicked for Good billboard instead.
This is a racetrack, not a parking lot.
And then I added T-Mobile because it's Kansas. I mean, look, Arrowhead Stadium has Sprint for a number of years. They have all that. State Farm. I think it has some Chiefs resemblance, but I think I also added it in there because of the Caitlin Clark phenomenon.
Welcome to MRN's presentation.
Fun fact about Kansas, no matter the size, this logo will be bloated as hell. Way too big. It looks egregiously overdone.
Still learning things about this track. We should see quite a show.
Ken Schrader won Rookie of the Year honors in 1985.
It seems like Schrader's been.
It's obvious that Ken Schrader had the most paint schemes. I decided, let me pick Haley Williams as the representative so I can make dozens of paint schemes of her.
Gentlemen, start your engines.
Am I the only one that thinks that she sounds like either Dorothy or Pearl if she had the star talent?
Starting out front are the Ganassi Racing Dodge and the UPS Ford.
Get ready. We're going green.
So yeah, like the driver bios, that's another thing I want to do an update on. I have a couple people that may try it. I hope to hear back from them in the coming days or weeks to see how it sounds, to where the driver bios represents the artist rather than like Joe Moore and Barney Hall talking about Ken Schrader or Mark Martin, Kevin Harvick, or Jimmy Spencer, where you have recorded folks talking about Taylor Swift, Bad Bunny, Shaquille O'Neal, Chris Jericho. You know, mostly those who are in the main roster as well, but time will ultimately tell. Driver coaches. The Thunder license, those I don't want to alter because voice generated stuff is a kind of a sore subject now, to where imagine, in an ideal world I would like to hear like Eminem's voice telling me that I'm doing something wrong, or Jason Hetfield like something says yeah yeah yeah, but it's a sore subject now that I don't think it would be able to be done. Imagine a Kid Rock voice, a spotter pack, or a Mike Shinoda, or an Olivia Rodrigo, or Ed Sheeran. Ed Sheeran is just mostly a guitar. He don't even use social media that much. Or even The Weeknd, just giving us some oddity dialogue. Or Eminem yelling at me. As cool as that sound, but it's a very sore subject. The generated voice or generated anything. Justifiable too, for the most part. No, about 98% of the time it's justified. Johnny Cash. It was a no-brainer that I had to put him in the number 3. He even actually has 76 wins. Only 3 championships though, unfortunately in that regard, but most of them in the early years. Again, like I said, these are all fictional. I put them where I felt like it seemed fit. And of course, he's the man in black. Of course, it's self-explanatory here. Let's take a look at a couple more paint schemes. Then let's see if there's a story I want to tell with one of these paint schemes. Nickelback. Enough said. Literally, enough said. This one I had to virtually do by hand too, trying to make it look close enough to the counterpart. Again, it's not perfect or not going to be perfect. So, there's your little Nickelback story. 24 wins. Early years of Nickelback, people underestimate how big they were. They had to... How You Remind Me was their #1 song of the fucking year. Excuse me, but it was. People forget about that. Let's go to Richmond. Let me show you a couple more. Let's go to the Monte Carlo 400, or known as here as the Red Bull Rutgers Rock and Roll 400 at Richmond. Say that 5 times. I kept the Union 76 logo. It's one of the few that I actually kept in its true form because I didn't want to mess with it, because I like seeing the Unical 76, especially the 76 ball. These were tacky to make. The Red Bull logo, the Beats by Dre logo, these were tacky. They were real tacky. And what I noticed is for the night versions, if I want, there's like a different shade of darkness to where the graphic becomes dark. I went against it, so that's why when you see the night race, some of them are brighter than others, because it's replicate. I copy and pasted the day textures for the night one, except for the sunny one. Fun fact: in NASCAR Thunder 2004, that pylon updates as it happens. If I do a video someday about that, remember where you first heard it from. I never noticed that until this year when I was watching all these 04 videos, Thunder 04 mods, etc., etc., etc. I thought it was a neat attention to detail that they stopped doing not long after, for whatever reason. Man, EA Sports used to be on top of the world, ladies and gentlemen. Jay-Z. It's supposed to be a play into the 444. Beyonce has car number 4. JC felt like, let me put him in car 44 with the Lewis Hamilton number 5. I was going to go with red, but as far as the roof number, I was like, nah, let me... I wanted to keep it consistent. Like, Beyonce's is yellow. JC should be yellow, but the doors would have to be red to match the color of Blueprint Part 3. As evidence right here. I didn't want to mess with the formula. K-Dot. Let's go take a spin on the Tams Burger car, shall we? I'm going to show you what I mean by the DJ Khaled card. If you're stuck around long enough, I talked about DJ Khaled earlier, that had I known that he had a Nesquik endorsement, I would have made a paint scheme on it instead of the one that I ended up making. Let me show you 1 second. I'm surprised not many people are pointing out the Not Like Us references of the Tams Burger car compared to the Coldplay and the Saint Anger of the world. Yeah, DJ Khaled and Nesquik. I did not know that until literally days before the mod came out. Literally. And if you see right here, it says Pepsi Black. I based it off of the warning because they're billboards. Pancakes! Yes, Dale Jr. reference right there. But back to Pepsi Black. I could not find a good Pepsi Black brands or anything because I only saw through the warning. So I guess it might be only a Mexico thing. Fun fact about Homestead, your head will be dizzy after this. Because for some reason, this camera spins here, but not at any of the other tracks. Enough of that. And with the Legend cars activated, Drake and Morgan Wallen will not be on the main 43 car grid as a result. So you have to disable the Legends, unuse them, and activate them. There we go. Inactivate those drivers for Drake and Morgan Wallen to appear, along with the secondary drivers. Another billboard texture I had to change on the road course, as kind of you get a quick lap around here, was the Daniel Suarez Freeway Insurance billboard. It was originally like an old one from when he first joined Trackhouse, but I felt like I wanted to add a more recent one. Rather than go with this year with Trackhouse, I decided to go a step ahead because I did saw a graphic design of the Freeway Insurance, like looks like a billboard for Daniel Suarez's new ride, Aspire Motorsports. How do I feel about Suarez doing in 2026? I really don't know. I think he'll do okay. Pitbull's out of the picture. He's going to a team where he's not the #1 driver. That's obviously Carson Hocevar. Where he may be a borderline #3 driver because you still have Michael McDowell. So here's what I did. I changed it from the Trackhouse to Spire, but show the freeway car. Look at that. Freeway on freeway, 99.7.
Well, I see the brakes work.
I guess I felt like, why not? And another artist that I didn't include that I probably might include in a potential 2026 update is Leve. Why not? I'll include Leve. Leve's a great artist. How I first heard of Leve was a few years ago because I went to the Amoeba in LA during Busch Clash weekend in LA. I believe it was the last year they had it in 2024. When it was a nice sunny day before the torrential rain and flood happened and kind of ruined the significance of the Clash across the board if it hadn't been already. So yeah, with Leve, I honestly, I saw there was like a sizable, pretty normal sized poster of her. I was thinking, why does she look like Alana Haim for some reason, even though it's not her? Then I turned the frame around and it says Leve. I was like, should I get the poster? It's a beautifully aesthetic photo. Why not? But I went against it because I was like, okay, I remember the name, but I need to hear her songs and music first. Fast forward to the end of 2025, I have. So if I ever find it out in the wild, probably might get it. I still need to get the first couple albums of hers because vinyls aren't cheap. They are not. Also, RIP to Double XL of tow car fame. If you know, you know. I'm not going to Michigan for that one. What other track do I want to go to? The Texas Road Course. The original logo for the Texas 500K looks ugly, rancid as sin. It looks like a horrible attempt like of the old CBS sports logos that they used to do for race graphics. It looked terrible, so I decided, you know what, I'm going to call it the Cowboy Carter 400. Yes, indeed, Haley Williams has a lot of paint schemes. It's because of who I guess she's in the Ken Schrader slot.
This is something new for the
This
NASCAR
logo looks a lot
series.
better than
This
the
is a great infield
base game.
layout, and I'm glad to see them come here.
And if you're
Fans
wondering why do I
expect
have
to be
one
excited.
battle
It's
after
gonna be a great
another,
show.
they did film part of the movie in Texas. So if they filmed it in Texas, might as well incorporate it there. And El Paso, if I remember. Good old El Paso, Texas. Shout out to Eddie Guerrero. And if you look hard enough, I'm glad this fake came up. This was a pain in the ass to make. Because I was thinking, this was the most hackiest paint scheme I've made. It's like, let me toss in the big red chair on the door. Let add a little spice into it. It turned out okay. Whataburger on the side because we are indeed in Texas. Good old Slim Shady on the pole. Oh wait, that's actually Charlie XCX on the pole because Road Course's the pole steers on the outside. As you can tell, the pit boxes is Jeff Purvis's look. There's a few pit boxes I felt like it didn't need change because it matches the color fairly enough. Here's another Aussie tribute billboard over there on the airplane.
Starting the race from row 3 are the Sprint Dodge and the UAW Delphi Chevrolet.
Get ready. We're going green.
All right, going green here at the Texas Roads. If you see on the side right here, where it's on the right side of Eminem's car, the post, that's proof. That's another Easter egg decal I incorporated. There's a little Pantera, Cowboy Carter, Black Poof, Dimebag. Oh, and I just got a Casa right there. Goes Bad Bunny up in the air. I'm gonna park right here. I'm gonna park right here. Hey, no, Kendrick, what are you doing? I'm trying to park. Shaq, I'm trying to park. I'm trying to explain my story. All right. Manitoba, King of the Hill, Diet Dr. Pepper, one of the drinks I drink, and Motorsports Tribune, the outlet that I've been writing for since 2018. They're based in Texas, so why not? I felt like I wanted to incorporate them somehow as a subtle gesture. Manitoba, King of the Hill. Who's coming? All right, who I eliminated from this before I let Eminem lap me? We got Duggar done, Bruno Mars done. Duggar's trying to get out of the grapple, but it's probably going to be spawned out of the race. Oh, here's another thing that is important to mention. It's Eminem in this car, but you don't see his name. Here's why. Because for some reason, the last name is not included when I changed it to where I wanted the singular stage name on there, with the exception of Beyonce. That one I did put her last name on there. Mostly for identity purposes. Eminem, if I put, obviously, if I put Marshall Mathers, it'll make sense, but I want to make it identifiable as possible. Because if I put Eminem in the first name, it would say E dot. Same with the starting grid, it would say E dot. But for the driver, the race results, and the top 5, it will show a blank. However, you do see, you do see Pitbull here. You'll also see the Weekend. I put the Weekend as just that rather than T Weekend because it's a stage name. I felt like, nah, let me just put the Weekend in under as such. SZA appears. Eminem appears. And the same thing goes with the demo. I'll show you right now a demo race real quick. I wanted to make it as easy as possible because if I put it in the first name, then it virtually swaps around. And that is too tacky. I didn't want to deal with that, so I felt like let me just put it in the last name section column and make some sacrifices. And I felt like that was one of the better sacrifices I did with this one. I'll show you a little bit of the demo, and I think that might be it. If you play career mode, continue long enough to where you get sponsorship packages. That too has a music flair in there, to where I'm trying to remember. You'll have a Haim package, you'll have a Travis Scott package, which is WWE, namely. You have a lot of things in there. It's on the texture files, but I haven't done career mode. I haven't even properly done career mode all the way through ever. I know I've been playing this game for over 20 years and I haven't done it, sat down and do proper career mode at my own leisure. Maybe I'll do a gameplay someday about it, maybe not, I don't know. I might do a season mode of the rock and roll mod, but I have to figure out what driver I want to pick for that journey. I have to think about it a little bit on that, but play career mode long enough, you'll see that too has been modified. Speaking of modified, I got a couple of Spotify playlists for this mod for your listening pleasure. Give it a look. Play while you play this game. And we're still in Texas. Look at the upper ticker. Eminem appears. SZA and Pitbull. That's the main reason why I put them in the last name, so you can see it in the ticker during demo mode. Because if you don't do it in demo mode, they will not appear on there at all. And of course, BBL Drizzy dead last in demo modes for some reason. Alrighty then. I think that's gonna do it here for me. I think I've explained a little bit of the details of what goes on. Oh no! Wait! Before I do go, let's do something for old time's sake. Let's go pick a driver. Oh, that's not where I wanted to go. I wanted to go to season mode. There's BB Bridges' car, by the way. Let's do season mode. Let me go pick a driver. It's going to be a specific set of drivers, so I'm going to go pick here. Let's go pick the Black Panther car. Alright, Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Why we're focusing on Las Vegas? There's a little thing called the Jackpot 5. There are 5 drivers that are eligible for this, and if you exit out of a game mode, you'll know who are the Jackpot 5 drivers here. As you've seen some of my previous videos, I did talk about the Jackpot 5 at length for NASCAR Thunder 2002-2003. You'll see what I'm trying to do here. And by the way, when you look at the team names, they are under record labels, nearly all of them. Based on the records I felt like best fit, and where they are right now. Because I originally was going to do like a buddy-buddy system, where like Taylor Swift has like Beyonce, Alana Haim, Hayley Williams, Ed Sheeran, all under one roof. But in the 157 Studios Discord, Matt suggested, why not just do record labels instead? It'll be a lot easier. I say, why not? Lava Records, Atlanta Records, Post-Atlanta Racing, Parkwood Entertainment, Mr. 305, Mascot Records. That is actually a record name. I probably would have put it Jericho and Sony. This is one of the few exceptions. I put Kane in there because I figured, why not? I want to keep it racing for Fred Durst. Musgrave will probably change, potentially. I don't know. It's very tacky to change because I got to remember, okay, what is the team ID numbers and all of that all over again. But yeah, I gave them team names to make it more immersive. And of course, Sabrina Carpenter and The Weeknd are kind of leading their way through, but we're going to do one playthrough. It's aptly called the Dan Weldon Memorial because at one part of the racetrack, and I forgot to mention this, there's a lot of open wheel references in this. I know it's a NASCAR game, but I felt like tossing it because it was where my mindset was, especially at a track like Las Vegas, where if you look closely, let me turn off all the settings. You got Mariah Carey, Ice Cube, Honora, Guitar Center, MGM Grand. Let me turn it around. It's not the exact spot. It's roughly close to it because when I went to the track itself in person for the first time a couple months ago, I realized it's a lot further than I thought it was, the memorial plaque. The memorial plaque is more or less roughly at around where between the Dollywood and the MGM Grand area is. And with the Weldon Tribute one, I think this one only doesn't duplicate. It doesn't do any duplicates, and I just wanted to have the one singular spot for it. And with that, let's go racing. Let's see if they actually talk about the season to this point. I don't think they do, but let's give it a check.
I'm Joe Moore, along with Barney Hall. We'll be bringing you all the action right here.
But after this experiment with the Jackpot 5, I'm going to call it a wrap, so I can actually watch the Micro Roots video. Like, seriously.
We probably won't see the big one that we talk about at some of the other tracks.
Jeremy Mayfield experienced an up-and-down year in 2000. He had 12 top 10s and 4 poles, but also had 11 DNFs.
He was either running up.
I don't care what anybody says, that album cover is really good. An artist putting an effort on their album covers. Comes a long way.
Kevin Harvick accomplished an incredible feat in 2000.
Okay, it doesn't look like we're going to talk about the season up to this point. I think it takes about 4 or 5 races into the year to talk about it. But I got my work cut out for him starting 36, so I had to really get on it. This is a good question now I'm thinking. Even the official got the Billboard Cup logo. This is a good question that I have to ask myself. If there's a tie in the championship, will they say both of them as a championship leader, or will they take precedent on Sabrina Carpenter over The Weeknd here? Let's figure it out.
Let's see how they'll line up for the start. Starting out front are the Ganassi Racing Dodge and the 17 car.
I've come a run with Halsey as some of her songs. I will say that much. It's a shame that her record label would not let her make a new album because of poor sales of The Great Impersonator. That sucks.
In row 4 are the Dodge dealers UAW Dodge and the Citgo Ford.
Nope, I don't. I think it'll take precedent on the 24 because that's who's ahead in the table via tiebreaker. Let's see if that's the case.
The 6th row has the Dale Jr. Chevrolet and the Mark Martin Ford. In row 7 are the Napa Auto Parts Chevrolet and the Rubbermaid Ford. Starting the race from row 8 are the Caterpillar Dodge and the 82 car. And in row 9 are the M&M's Pontiac and the Singular Wireless Chevrolet. Starting in row 10 will be the Altel Ford and the Target Dodge. Jeff Gordon, the NASCAR Winston Cup points leader, will begin the race from the middle of the field.
Okay, it says Jeff Gordon rather than the 24 car running. There's a few things I want to do to further enhance this experience. That's kind of my goal, hopefully in the coming weeks or months. But now let's go win ourselves a Jackpot 5 here with Kendrick Lamar in the Black Panther car. And if I win, I'm going to show you a little few more details. That includes victory lane, the pit crew uniform for the primary drivers. Also, the secondary takes an effect into that as well. So, she's only 6 spots. Oh, good grief, that is terrible. I have to Bodo some people out of the way. No, don't hit the 24. That's not what I wanted. All right, get out of the way, Beyonce. The freedom will happen once I win. If you look at the airbenders, this only happens at bigger tracks, tracks over a mile, and of course a lot of spin's going to cause a big wreck. That race ended as far as just as well as Mae West's character ended in one battle after another. Hot to go, more like I need to go. The leader indicators, those have been changed. The only one I didn't change is Kendrick's because I don't think the black backdrop of the font will mesh well with a black jelly bean, and like these indicators tell me. So I decided to keep it gray as it was for Kevin Harvick's primary base, but the rest have been changed to fit appropriate. All right, getting by Pitbull, getting by Charlie. Meanwhile, we lap Alana with her flat tire. For 2009, the Sasha Fierce here. I did thought about Sasha Fierce. I did consider it. But since I put her in the Ryan Newman slot, I only had the 2 that I had. And like I mentioned, I didn't want to mess around it too much in that regard. It's just like I had to creatively challenge myself to work with what I got. But no, I definitely probably would have toyed in a Sasha Fierce car. Drunken Love from the self-titled 2013 album I identify with the most because a group of friends back in college would sing about it a lot in 2014. So that's why I went with that album look. Incorporate with Drunken Love over Sasha Fierce. But no, to your point, that would have been a nice choice. And the reason why I put Beyonce in the Newman slot is because I believe it was Talladega 2003 EA Sports 500. Crazy in Love was playing when they were highlighting Ryan Newman's 2003 season. And I felt like, okay, there's some correlations and memories associated to why I put Beyonce in that car instead of, I say, in Haley Williams' slot. The question will be, would I be able to do, how many Beyonce albums I'd be willing to do? I probably would have done plenty more. But the Paramore ones were a challenge because there's a lot of them because I put her in the Ken Schrader slot. Some of these drivers are placed based where I feel like it seems appropriate for their genre and the time period we're at now. So we're coming to the white flag. No, I will not say it. I need to hold off the weekend. Can I hold off the weekend and Mike and Luke and Eminem and Stapleton? Oh, weekend bobble. I washed up the track. No. We're not ending this on a negative note. Get out of here, weekend. It's my time. It's my time. I had to use Carl. Take notes, Austin Dillon. If you want a door slam, just door slam like this. Alright, before we show you Victory Lane, I didn't mess with the skin colors enough because again, timing and timing and just making it look accurate instead of atrocious and horrible. I just put a generic face on everyone, even the females. But I got one more business to do. You see this pit box right here? You see this pit box right here? Hold on. Dunk on him! Dunk on him! Dunk on him! Alright, enough.
There were only a few lead changes.
Yeah, there weren't too many battles
And yes, and I know this is specifically glaring in the
Kevin Harvick was
big trailer.
all race long.
The wheels, some more often than not on replays, they freeze. Like you see, let me slow it down. Let me slow it down for you. Look at the wheels of everybody else. Look at the Kendrick car. For whatever reason, I don't know why sometimes it doesn't spin all the way properly. It's like it glides in slow motion. And I know I have it in slow motion, but it just glides. Too bad, but everybody else is moving, but mine doesn't. It kind of kills the immersion, but there's nothing really I can do about it. It might be a texture thing. Look at all these car bumpers. Look at all these paint schemes. Kendrick going down low like a hovercraft. There's no EA Sports logo. I did that on purpose to make these demos and to make the trailers and teasers possible without having to make it widescreen, you know? Look at all these beautiful cars. All right, let's go to Victory Lane before we wrap it up. With the Renaissance car, you have a good point. If I was a Cowboy Carter, found more of the aesthetic, and I probably would be allowed to be shown on YouTube because let's be honest, the Renaissance album is a little bit borderline risque for YouTube standards, unfortunately, and it's almost virtually going to be the same look anyway. But yeah, it totally would have made sense on that one. But I wanted to toss in a throwback Beyonce car. Okay, how many? Why does it not? Here's a bug, and I've noticed this. It says Johnny Cash because I tried many times swapping Johnny Cash to Kendrick. They just keep showing Kendrick as Johnny Cash, whereas Johnny Cash will show Kendrick. I cannot figure out why it keeps doing that. I swapped them. I made sure it's exactly copy and paste to the right appropriate driver, but it always swaps. I think that's probably a Goodwrench glitch where no matter how many times I try, I can't fix it. But you kind of saw the billboard looks. I went with a uniform look. But the biggest question of all, did Kendrick win the Jackpot 5? Yep. Ariana's another good example where could have gone with the prior albums too if I wanted to. Boom. Jackpot 5, Kendrick Lamar. I did change it. And there's this, if you look at the loading screen when you're done playing a certain mode, you will see who are they. I try to remember. I have Kendrick. He's the only male that made my top 5. Billie Eilish, Chaperone, Taylor Swift, and Beyonce. Those are the 5 representatives for Season 1 of Career Mode and Season Mode. Kendrick being the only man that won anything worth a damn in the Grammys this year, kind of carried 2024 for the men. Beyonce for winning Best Album. Taylor Swift for being the most streamed artist of the year in 2024. Chaperone for Best New Artist, and Billie Eilish for simply being a 2-time Academy Award winner. I could have probably put Morgan Wallen in that one, but since Morgan Wallen isn't much of a Grammys guy on purpose, because face facts, you have to submit your own work. You cannot just expect to be nominated. I learned that a year ago that that's how it works. And with that, I'm going to go pick... Let me go pick somebody. Let me see what I'm going to pick to wrap things up here. Let's pick The Warning. in a keep me fed car. I'm going to show you one last thing before we wrap it up. And I feel like let's go to the beach. Speaking of beaches, Nicki Minaj was another one I considered, but it didn't came through my mind because when you have 113 songs, you have to pick and choose where I feel like, okay, they are relevant right now, or their impact is too significant to ignore. And I love hearing the Seagulls in this game. For Daytona Beach, I didn't win with modern logos here. I decided to go back to the 50s. Like Sun Records, Ferrodo. What else do I have? Victor Records. I went with retro logos. It's the only one where I could pull it off, like Total Petroleum. That one and with obviously my business logo. But I went with Total because that's another big brand from the 1950s and 60s that was used a lot in racing. Lucas Oil too, but I went with Total Petroleum instead. To kind of fit more of the aesthetic. So I'm going to go to pit road right here, kind of show you a live pit stop with the billboard uniforms, and then we'll completely wrap it up because I really need to see the microbrews video, like, period. Let's go 70 miles an hour.
Okay, you got it.
Let's go change some tires. There you have it. All of them are in billboard uniform because can you imagine me trying to do artist by artist? I have to be super great. I thought, let's make it all uniform and basic. I wanted to keep it simple in that regard. Even with the helmets, they're all crystal. Pearl, excuse me, not crystal, but they're pretty pearl. So there you have it. So that will do it here with this live stream. Thank you for everybody to tune in. I hope you'll learn a thing or two about modding and what the process of it all, and some disclosure of some topics and decision making and all of that. This is just a sit back and relax, get a look at the mod in greater detail. Until we meet again, catch you guys and gals